guys, welcome back. I'm Dan, professional filmmaker with the Fuelcast team. This is part 2 of editing in DaVinci. I hope you managed to watch the last episode and managed to get all the software installed and get all the footage. Today we're going to be looking at editing that footage and tweaking some of the audio. So let's take a look. So throughout this tutorial we're going to be using clips we filmed here the other day. It's really good to follow along with the same stuff I'm doing. So if you'd like to download them, here's a link, follow that, download the clips. We're going to be using 4 different types of media today. We're going to use my piece to camera of me walking, we're going to use some cutaway clips, we're going to use some external audio, and we've got some stock music as well. So we're back in the editing page on DaVinci. Just a little refresh from last time. This is your timeline. This is where you've stored all your footage in lovely bins. So I'm going to pull a clip from the Sony camera bin. You would have seen it in the last episode, so we're going to edit that intro clip together. We filmed it a few times, you can see. So I'm going to pull in the last one, which I'm thinking is the right one. And on this bottom row here is our audio. We can increase the gain of the audio. If stuff is looking a bit quiet, we can increase the gain here like this. We're not actually going to use the audio from the camera for this edit because we recorded the audio separately on something called a Zoom recorder. So I'm going to pull in the audio from that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to match them up. So you can see both on the audio and on the clip at the top that I do this nice little clap. And you can see this spike in the audio on the camera, this spike here. And what I want to do is I want to find the spike on the Zoom recorder audio. So I'm just going to drag this down a bit, and then it looks like this thing here is the audio spike. Just check. You can solo each layer as well if you just want to listen to one. So this is them both at the same time. And you can solo just the Zoom audio. Check, that's the clap. So I'm just going to mute this track because I don't need this one anymore. And we're going to trim the first part of the video because people don't need to see all the behind the scenes stuff for this one. So there's a couple of ways you can do that. You can either highlight by clicking and dragging everything and drag the end of the clip. You can see the cursor changes to a couple of different symbols. So this one here means that you're manipulating and dragging a clip left and right. So the other way to do it is if you press B on your keyboard or click this little blade icon here, and I'm going to cut just before the timeline, and I'm going to press A or the selection mode key, highlight that and delete. So then we've got, hey guys, I'm Dan, professional filmmaker and part of Fuelcast. So that's just a quick overview of some of the tools and how to trim your clip. Let's move on to the next bit. So we've got our main clip here. It's good to watch it through just to check that you've cut out any mistakes that you might have made while filming. But to make it a bit more interesting, I'm going to add some cutaways and some B-roll shots. So up in the corner here, we've got a couple more clips of me walking, very exciting. If you hover over each clip, you can see a little preview of what's going on in the clip. So I quite like this one of my feet. So let's find a good point to stick that in. You want to be careful that when you're dragging clips into the timeline, you can see here that when I dragged it in, it's deleting the stuff I drag it onto. So we don't want to do that. So you can either pull it over, drag it to the side first, or you can hover over a couple of different layers and that'll create a new video and audio layer for you. So we don't want any audio in these clips we're dragging in. So the way to drag it in without getting any audio is we're just going to double click the video we want. And if we hover it over in the program monitor here, you see this little video film icon, drag that, and then we just get the video clip. If there's a clip and you just want the audio, you just hover over, click the audio tab there, and you just get the audio there. but we don't want that. Let's say you've skipped ahead a bit and you've dragged in a clip and it's got audio in it and you want to delete that audio. It's annoying because when you click on it and you delete it, they both go. So we just want to turn off this little linked selection tool here, and that means that you can now individually select the clips and you can just delete the audio like that. So let's just quickly line up my feet to somewhere that makes sense. Add in titles to intro a section, editing. Well, editing software is this amazing. So let's have a look and see if it works in there. Again, we want to trim up the first section and get a section of me walking. So let's see if that works. Well, editing software is this amazing tool that allows you to pull lots of different media together to create a film. Nice. Looks like that works. Tell your story. At the moment, it's just a straight cut from me talking. A lot of the time, you just want a straight cut, but if you wanted something a bit different, you can see that you've got these two little boxes at the top right. If you just drag that over, you'll get a nice little crossfade. You can see my feet come in there. Sometimes you might want to switch up how you're cutting to different clips. A crossfade can add a nice smooth transition if something feels a bit jarring. You just want to be aware of weird things in the middle of the crossfade popping up, but here it looks fine to me. And then if you want it to fade out at the back, just drag that one over. This will change the time, so if you want a really long crossfade out. Most of the time you'll be dealing with just straightforward cuts. Cuts just add a bit more energy to your film. But if you want to slow things down, maybe add a bit more emotion to something, give people time to pause, a crossfade can do that. And if at the end of a section you do a crossfade to black, that just helps people know that we're closing out a section, we're slowing down, we're coming to an end. So cutting and crossfades are what you're going to be using 99% of the time. You probably found this toolbox over here. You've got these video transitions, audio transitions. In the video transitions, there's a bunch of funny Star Wars-esque pushes and pulls. You've got this nice heart transition here. You're probably never going to use them, but feel free to have a look, have a play. So like this digital dissolve isn't in the free version, so just be aware that not everything you can use. So as always, we learn best by doing and having a play around. Doesn't matter if you get anything particularly usable at the end, you've learned where things are. So yeah, just go have a play and we'll move on to the next section. When you're adding in things like text, you want to take as much care as you did while you were filming your content. The font you use, the sizing, the spacing, where you place it in the frame, are all going to change the feel of your film. You may want to add a lower third. If you're interviewing someone, it will show their name, their title, and maybe where they're working in ministry. Titles for different sections or for the whole video, just so people know what kind of content they're watching. Or you may want to add subtitles if someone watching is hard of hearing. So let's take a look now. So over in the toolbox again, we've got this titles tab, and there's lots of options in here. Most of the time, you're probably just going to be using this basic text function. So we're just going to drag that in here. So if you double click the text box, you'll get this little tab up here. You can change what the text is saying. So I'll just say, hello. You can change the font to some different types of fonts. You can change the sizing here. If it's difficult to see, you can add a stroke effect or a drop shadow. So let's just find the bit in the clip where I talk about titles and let's stick a title in there. You can also add in titles. So here it is. So let's stick a title in there. Let's just change it to titles. I think I want this to be all in capitals. Make it a bit smaller. I don't like that font. Let's find. So this is our standard 10-minute tutorial font. So I'll add that in, make it a bit bigger. You can see I've got a drop shadow on there just to pop it from the background a bit. And you can also add in titles to... I think the way it cuts in is a bit harsh, so I'll just add in a little crossfade on that and a crossfade out. In titles to intro a section. That's good. I might do a bit more tweaking with that, but I'm happy with that right now. Here I talk about subtitles, so let's add in some subtitles just to get a bit more space at the top here. You do that quite simply by just right-clicking in this area here, add subtitle track, and click this create caption button. And you can add in what you're talking about. I'll just type that in now. You can probably tell that if I had to do that for the whole clip, that would take quite a long time. We don't have time to go into detail now, but there are lots of tools that use stuff like AI to listen to all your audio, and they'll stick in the subtitles for you. You'll just need to go and have a double check that it's found everything okay. As with a lot of this stuff, it can be quite overwhelming with all these different tools and text boxes, but just take the time to have a play. It's really important, particularly with stuff like text, to get the feel right, make sure you're happy with all the placement, the sizing, fonts, etc. I know when I'm watching a film, if something feels odd about where they put some text, or they put something like Comic Sans in there, or an equivalent font, it's like, oh, that's pretty ugly. I kind of switch off a bit. So just make sure it's intentional and creative and all part of the film that you want to make. So let's move on to what some people would argue is the most important part of filmmaking, which is the audio. You could have the best looking footage, but if the audio is bad, then your film's bad. Try your hardest on set to get the best audio you can, but there's a couple of things we can do to clean it up in post if you had a couple of mistakes here and there. So we want to go into the audio page, which is this little music icon. It's called Fairlight in DaVinci, but it's just the audio page. And if you've ever worked in something like GarageBand or Logic, it's very similar to that. So in the timeline here, we can see all our audio, and on the right, we've got a different audio strip for each layer of audio we've got. So if I click play here, or cut into things like B-roll, you can see whatever you think is appropriate, that I'm only using the Zoom audio here, and it's popping up in this audio 2 track. I've currently got audio 1 muted, so you won't hear anything out of that. You can also add in titles to intro a section or subtitles. So the gain, the overall volume of it is pretty good actually, and I wouldn't say it's particularly noisy. Let's just listen to the other one and see what it would have sounded like if we hadn't recorded the audio separately. Tools to help people follow along with what you're saying. You can also use things like music, the rise and fall of different... So you can hear in that you've got a lot of background noise. There's a car reversing in the background. You can hear my footsteps a bit more. You can probably hear the cameraman's footsteps as well. So let's try and clean that up so it sounds like the other one a bit better. So first thing you want to do is go into this little EQ section here, double click that. Basically the EQ is all your lows to highs, all the entire spectrum of sound of the audio you've recorded. So if I could play here, you can see there's quite a lot of low end going on down here,
we're going to talk
not much high end going on up here.
3 videos, step by step.
It's also quite echoey.
To help you.
So I'm going to bring some of the low end down. Most of the detail in the voice comes around 1 to 2K, so I'll bring that up a bit, bring down some of the high end.
Feel confident in video editing, because it's a great skill to have, definitely in this day and age. Anyway, let's go have a look.
So that's a bit less boomy. We want to clean it up a bit more. I want to make it a tiny bit louder, so I'm just going to increase the gain on that there.
We're gonna talk through this.
You never want stuff clipping. If you're getting lots of red lines, if I boost this up all the way.
Of 3 videos, step by step.
You can see that this little red bar pops up here. If you get that, you want to just bring the levels down a bit. Otherwise you'll get some distortion in your audio. So let's bring that down. There's lots of other tools, like over in this effects panel, you've got things like compression, you've got this noise reduction feature here. Worth having a play with all of them. Sometimes you can go a bit too far and things can sound a bit robotic or artificial, and it sounds worse than when you started. So EQ will get you most of the way there, and making sure you're not clipping at all. And if you want to go in a bit more depth on audio, one of our team, Ellie, did a whole video on podcasting, and towards the end of that she talks about editing the podcast, and she goes into a bit more detail around audio. So worth going over there and having a look at that if you feel like you need to go a bit deeper. Right, so music. You can spend ages trying to find the right track for your film, and it's definitely worth spending the time to find the right track. For this piece, where it's got me walking, there's a lot of energy, so I found this like funky track that sort of complements the energy of my movements. But if you're doing a slower piece to camera, you might want to find something atmospheric, something lo-fi. We use a lot of lo-fi music in the 10-minute tutorial series. It's not too distracting. You don't want something with lots of melody or percussion coming over the top of the high end. Most of the time you will need royalty-free music. The track we've got today is from a free site called Pixabay. We also use websites like Artlist or Motion Array. They have music on there. They do cost money, but definitely worth investing if it turns out this is something you're really interested in and you're getting a lot of good reception on. So when you found your track, you want to bring it into your software, like all the other stuff. So we've got this funky groove music here, and I'm just going to drag it in down here. And let's just have a quick listen, see what it sounds like. And you can do that through cutting to different shots, different camera angles. So straight away you can't hear anything I'm saying because the music's way too loud. So let's just go back into the audio tab that we were in earlier. Just click play again, or cut into things like B-roll. You can see over here in audio track 3, which is where the music is, that it's clipping a bit at the top. So we'll just bring the music down a bit to about -20, see what that sounds like. Of whatever you think is appropriate. You can also add in titles to yeah, so you can hear my voice a bit better there. But there's still a bit more in the track. It's interacting with my voice in a way that I don't like. So we are gonna come back into the EQ on that channel strip, on the music channel strip, where I said earlier, where most of the definition is in the voice. We want to remove that from the audio track. So we're going to bring down between about 1K and 2K. Let's give that another listen. And you can do that through cutting to different shots, different camera angles. And let's just turn it off to see what the difference is. Or cutting to things like B-roll of whatever you think is appropriate. Together to create a film, to tell your story. And you can do that through cutting. So you can hear that sort of beeping sound that gets taken away when I turn the EQ on. So we'll leave that on. To different shots, different camera angles. I think the music is still a bit too loud, so let's just bring that down a bit. Or cutting to things like B-roll of whatever you think is appropriate. You can. Yeah, nice. So I'm pretty happy with that, how that's sounding. You can do the same thing to audio as video clips, so we can have a little crossfade in. Hey guys, I'm Dan, professional filmmaker. Just so it's not super jarring. This clip's a bit short, so you may want to add a bit more at the end. You want to line up the audio track so that it's coming in on the beat. So let's just find that. Moody or bright and vibrant, depending on dark and moody or bright and. Let's see what this sounds like. Or bright and vibrant, depending on the story you're telling. But you can make it dark and moody or bright and vibrant, depending on the story you're telling. Yep, so that works. You may want to tweak that around a bit, find a bit of a better spot, but for the moment, I'm happy with that. You can make it dark and moody or bright and vibrant, depending on the. So yeah, really important to look at your audio waveform to see where beats come in. You can even tap out on your desk just to get a feel, and also cutting on the beat is really good. So let's just have a quick look back at that, that cut we did to my feet. Let's make it a cut instead of a fade. Editing software is this amazing tool that allows you to pull. So I'm going to stick it on this beat, the cut on this beat. Allows you to pull lots of different media together to create a film, to tell your story. And then maybe I'll cut out when that drum fill comes in. Allows you to pull lots of different media together to create a film, to tell your story. And yeah, so you see the impact that that gave when I come back on screen. Story. And I quite like how that feels. So let's keep that there. So I'm pretty happy with this, how this is looking and sounding so far. Let's just give it a listen without the music to see what feeling it gives you. That allows you to pull lots of different media together to create a film, to tell your story. And you can do that. Yeah, it's okay, maybe a bit boring. So let's just put the music back in and see what that sounds like. Amazing tool that allows you to pull lots of different media together to create a film, to tell your story. And you can... Yeah, already that sounds like it's got a lot more energy. I'm more engaged with it. Hopefully you're more engaged with it. So yeah, just keep playing around with music, find the right tracks for you. Make sure it's not detracting from your voice. Make sure people are hearing the content you want to put over. So yeah, just go away, have a play, see what you come up with. Great, thanks guys, that's the end of this session. Don't forget to download those 4 different types of media. Have a play around with your text assets, your cutting, your music, and join us next time when we're going to talk about color and exporting your final video. See you later guys.